Welcome back everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to do a roast pork with perfect crackling on a charcoal rotisserie. Alright, now we're working with this beautiful 2.5 kilo bone-in pork loin roast. Now this method is going to work for loin roast and leg roast. You can use a shoulder if you want, but I prefer to do them for pulled pork. And the first thing we're going to do is just pat this skin dry because it's come straight out of the vac seal. The key to that crispy, perfect pork crackling is going to be getting this skin nice and dry. So the first step is just dry it off, give it a good pat down with some paper towel. And then we just want to double check that we don't need to trim any excess fat off. This one's looking pretty good. I don't think we need to do any trimming to this one. And then the next thing we want to do is just pierce the skin all over. Now you can use the tip of your knife if you want. You just want to stab heaps and heaps and heaps of holes all over the skin. And this is just going to help create that perfect bubbly crackling we all love. To speed up that process, you can use a jacquard. As you can see, that's going to create many more holes. Or jacquards can also come in this sort of shape and size as well. So I'll put a link in the description where you can get the jacquards. But for now, I'm just going to stab holes all over this pork skin. You're probably not going to be able to pick it up on camera, but obviously that has created thousands and thousands of little holes. That's going to help moisture escape from under the skin. And like I said, give us that nice bubbly crackling we all love. Now the next thing we want to do is we just want to cover the meat. We want to leave the skin exposed as we want that to air dry in the fridge for a couple of days. So for now, just going to get some cling wrap, cover all the meat so the meat doesn't dry out. And like I said, we want to leave all of that skin exposed. Doesn't really matter too much, but I'll get a little bit around the bones as well. All right, and then next you want to get your roast into the fridge. That's a cold, dry place where it's really going to dry that skin out. I recommend leaving it in there for 2 to 3 days, 4 days max, but at least 2 days to really dry that skin out. So I'm going to get this roast into the fridge, and we'll come back once this has had a couple of days drying. All right, so our roast pork loin has been in the fridge with that skin exposed, drying out for 3 days now. But before we get that out, you want to get some lumped charcoal or some briquettes going, which is what we're going to do now. All right, we're going to be using our Oklahoma Joe's Blackjack kettle, but you can honestly follow along to this video using any type of rotisserie. So we're just going to take our cooking grate off. We're just going to move one of our charcoal baskets over to the other side. We'll get a couple of firelighters down, light them up. And we'll get our charcoal chimney on top and fill it up with some briquettes. So for the first part of this cook, I really want to focus on building that pork crackling. So I want to get this nice and hot. If you're using lumped charcoal, that burns nice and hot, so you won't have to worry. But if you're using briquettes, you really want to get a premium brand that can burn nice and hot. I find a lot of the budget brands simply won't burn hot enough, but these Olive Pitco briquettes, they burn super hot, but they're also awesome for low and slow as well. So just keep that in mind if you are using briquettes. But like I said, if you're using lumped charcoal, that burns nice and hot, so you won't really have to worry. And now our briquettes are on. We've got about 10 minutes before they're going to be ready. So we'll use that time to prepare the rest of our pork roast. All right, so we've got our pork loin out of the fridge. We've taken the Glad wrap off, and you can just see how different that skin looks. That is nice and hard now, which is exactly what I want to see. What I want to do now is just season the meat side in some of my steak shooter. If you don't have steak shooter, you can just use some salt, pepper, garlic if you like, but I absolutely love it steak shooter with pork. So we're just going to give the meat side a nice light coat just for a little bit of extra flavour. Brush any seasoning off the skin if you got any on there. And then the next thing we're going to do, you don't have to do this, but we're just going to wrap the bones in foil. That's just going to stop them from burning, which will obviously make our pork look a bit nicer as well. All right, now that's done, we can get some oil on this skin, just a light covering. We'll rub that in, and I'll give a nice generous coat of some flaky salt. And then we want to get our rotisserie rod on. So we obviously want to go straight through the middle of this pork loin. And then we'll secure our forks in. Get our other fork on. And we'll probably have to adjust this once we actually get it on, just to make sure it's right over the middle of that fire. And now that is ready to go on once our briquettes are ready. All right, so these briquettes are ready. So what I'll do is just take them out for a moment, and then I want to get our charcoal baskets together in the middle of our charcoal grate. And then we'll get our briquettes in. And then we just want to get our rotisserie ring on. This is one that will fit any 57 centimeter kettle. Just had to swap the kettle over to the other side of the chopping board because my power wouldn't have reached otherwise. But now we can get our roast on and turn our motor on. All right, so like I said, the first thing we want to do is build our crackling right away. That's why I've put our 2 charcoal baskets together in the middle of that charcoal grate. Once our crackling's formed, I can spread those charcoal baskets apart, and that's really going to reduce the direct heat and just the heat in general getting to that pork roast. And then we'll finish the cook-off a little bit slower, just so that meat cooks nicely without our crackling burning. And another reason I like to build crackling first is we can really get some high heat on that skin before the fat starts to render and drip down, which causes a lot of flare-ups later in the cook if you do choose to build your crackling last. So we'll let this spin away for a while and we'll keep checking in throughout this cook. All right, now it's only been about 30 minutes, and as you can see, our crackling has pretty much set all over. So to reduce any further flare-ups and just reduce that overall heat, I'm going to spread these charcoal baskets out now, and I'm also going to get our wireless thermometer in there right in the thickest part, and now we're going to take that until it reaches 145 Fahrenheit internal or 63 degrees Celsius. All right, and after about 2.5 hours, this is done. We've hit that internal temperature of around 64 degrees Celsius or 145 Fahrenheit. So we'll flick our motor off. And now I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but this was a 2.5 kilo roast, so pretty much an hour per kilo. And it's worked out good because this was getting to the point where I would have had to light up some more briquettes soon, but we don't have to do that. So we can get this off and give it a rest before we slice and serve it. All right, so we can take all the foil off of these bones now if you want. Doesn't really matter, you can leave them on. And then we'll take our thermometer out. We'll take the rod out of our roast as well. And then I'm just going to loosely wrap the meat up in foil. We want to leave that crackling exposed. We don't want to steam that and potentially soften it up. And then I'm just going to let it rest like so for around 20 minutes, and then we'll come back to slice and serve it. All right, let's take this out of the foil and slice it up. It's very, very juicy, as you can see when I'm pressing around. It's just juice running out. Perfect crackling. I mean, look at that. Let's have a taste. First, we'll try some crackling. It's that light, bubbly crackling you're not going to break your teeth on. Just bite straight through it. That is so good. Right, then one of the cutlets. Such a tender bite, and that is juicy as well. Well, there you have it. There's how to make a roast pork with that perfect crackling on a charcoal rotisserie. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. But for now, I'm going to go enjoy the rest of this. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.